Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is the first live streamed event of ngBucharest, and we couldn't have a more perfect guest for this first streamed edition. Joining us is Bonnie Brennan from ngHuston. Hello, Bonnie. How are you?
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. All the way across the world from Texas. Yeehaw!
Cool. Bonnie, I'll let you start your presentation in just a minute, but I just, we usually do a short introduction to, to let everybody know who we are and actually present ourselves to you as well. So with your permission, I'm going to switch to a couple of slides. I think you can see the slides, right?
I can see you so far, but I think if you share your screen, I'll see it.
I need to share the screen. Yeah, screen share.
Yeah, because if I can't see it, then they can't see it on YouTube either. So there you go.
There we go. Right. So welcome to the meetup. First of all, special thanks to the awesome people that are allowing us to make our events here. It's a really cozy place, and they're really good friends of ours, and we like to thank them with this occasion. Adore me. So yeah, we're ngBucharest, formerly AngularJS Bucharest, right? We made the upgrade as well. These are our social links, just in case people watching this stream want to follow us. So our guest for everybody present here and on the stream as well is Bonnie. She's a Google developer expert on Angular and web security. She's a international conference speaker. I've actually had the pleasure to see her perform live, and she's super awesome. She hosts ngHuston, which I think I can safely say it's a friend community of ours, right? And also doing a lot of activities and being an advocate in all sorts of women in tech activities. So, I'll let her introduce herself more in depth, but all I can say is that she's super awesome, and thanks for joining us, Mike.
Thanks for inviting me.
And yeah, we usually do this since our previous meetup, not a lot has happened. Angular 8 is coming pretty soon. As always, improvements across the board. Support for Bezel is our experimental support for Bezel, which is the new build system, will land somewhere in Angular 8, and that's going to be awesome to follow. Maybe we'll have some meetups on Bezel as well. And yeah, we're keeping our eyes open for Ivy, which is what everybody's talking right now in the Angular community. Other news in the Angular world: ngRx7 launched. A lot of improvements, especially on the router side, and yeah, Angular Material also launched another major version with some pretty awesome things like virtual scroll and drag and drop. I think that landed in 7. So really quick about upcoming events and conferences. Vox Days, as you know, is a really big conference in Bucharest. There's the Vox Days in Bucharest in March, and then in May we'll have Vox Days Frontend. At last, a front-end conference in Bucharest. We haven't had one of those in like 1 or 2 years, so we're really, really excited about that. And we have a special discount for the conference. I'll send you the codes anyway later. Later this, not in Bucharest, but still in Romania, another super awesome conference to which we are community partners, JS Heroes, also 50%. Discount for our community, but it's a super awesome event. You should definitely join. And one of my favorite international Angular conferences, ngVikings, is in Copenhagen at the end of May, which makes it awesome because Copenhagen is no fun to visit in January or February, but it's absolutely super gorgeous in May. Also, we have a discount because our community is so awesome. And yeah, that's about it. Everybody enjoy the event. Bonnie, I will switch to you. I will stop sharing, and you're on.
By the way, my daughter and I are speaking at ngVikings, and we will be there And the CFP is still open. So if anybody thinks that they might want to consider speaking at a conference, which might sound crazy in the beginning, but if you're selected to speak, the conference covers all your travel expenses and you get a free ticket and free accommodations. And that's really great. And it's super, super scary getting up there and doing a talk for the first time, but it does get easier. So if you think that you might want to think about doing that, you should submit a talk just for practice. You know, you might get picked and then you can freak out. Hey, Andre, what is Adore Me?
What does Adore Me?
Yeah.
I will let someone from the company maybe talk for like 2 minutes.
Company. It's like Victoria's Secrets.
So yeah, they're the
talking over there.
Hey.
Yeah.
You can have a seat.
What is Adore Me?
So Adore Me is a second largest company in woman lingerie in America. Yeah. So we made we made the website and all administration tools in Angular. So here we use a lot of Angular.
So you guys help companies, you build software or you do consulting?
We are e-commerce.
All right. Okay, I like the name a lot. It's cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so are y'all ready to get started?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen and I'm gonna jump into my slides. Oh, and Andre and I are gonna have a game at the end with prizes. So, but it's a quiz. So you guys have to pay attention to the talk. At the end of the talk, we're gonna have a little game and you can play the game. And Andre, what is the prize that you were gonna give them to the winner?
So the prize for the quiz Bonnie is gonna run is a ticket to Vox Day's front end. So, yeah.
And anyone watching online can play our game, but only the people in the room can actually win the ticket. Yeah. So, and also you get to be, if you win the quiz, you get to be officially the smartest person in the whole room for the day, which is pretty cool. That might even be cooler than the ticket. Okay, so let me see if I can figure out one more time. Share my screen. And I'm going to share the big screen, and then I'm going to share my slides. So can you guys see my slides?
Yep, yes. We're good. And I'm going to mute so you don't have interferences during the presentation.
Yeah, and just remember, I can hear you, but I can't see you. So it's okay if you interrupt me if you guys have questions.
Awesome.
Okay, so as you know, my name's Bonnie, and I'm on Twitter at Bonster75, and I'm an Angular GDE, and I'm also a regular panelist on Angular Air, and I'm the founder of the ngHuston Angular meetup down in Texas. We have a YouTube channel, and we have a lot of Angular shows live streaming. It's a pretty small meetup, so it's pretty casual, but there's a lot of content on our YouTube channel, so go check it out if you have anything you want to learn about Angular. So today, I want to talk about Angular performance. And the reason why I want to talk about Angular performance is because I do a lot of consulting. And in the past few years, I've been called in to help multiple times with different teams who are struggling with Angular, because Angular can be a bit complicated. So although Angular can be wicked fast when it's implemented properly, I've seen some pretty common mistakes that can really slow down an application. I know we probably have some experts in the room, so for some of you, this stuff might seem super easy, but I've seen some of these mistakes, same exact mistakes made across multiple teams and multiple companies, so I think this stuff is worth covering. And I'm sorry, I keep getting emails coming in, so you'll hear the dinging. I should have muted that. Okay, so today, my talk will be broken into 3 sections, and but don't worry, because the first 2 sections are super, super easy, and the real action is in that 3rd section. So we're going to talk about measuring performance. We're going to talk about build time performance. These are the easy ones. And then we're going to talk a little bit about runtime performance, and we'll get into some actual code samples. And then at the end, we're going to have a quiz to see who is paying attention. And like I said, there will be a prize. Okay, so the first section is measuring performance. So a lot of times I've been brought in on projects where they already have a whole bunch of code written before I get there. And the first thing they usually ask me for help on is performance. So the first thing I want to do is capture some metrics, because you know the managers love measurable data, right? We can't just say it's slow. We just have to say like it's taking this many seconds to load and we need to get it down. So we want to really have that measure, right? So the first thing that I like to install is a thing called Webpack Bundle Analyzer. Webpack Bundle Analyzer is a visual representation of your stats.json file. So it's going to show you how much room each item takes up in your bundle. I've implemented this in several client projects, and without fail, there's always something in there that they didn't realize was so big. This won't affect your app in any way. It's just a really cool little resource to let you see what's going on in your bundle and address anything that might be taking up more room than it should. Like if someone in your team accidentally imported all of RxJS, this is going to help you catch that kind of thing. What I like about this is like you're seeing a screenshot here on this slide, but when you actually use this, this is live and you can hover over it and get specific information about each thing. So when you see this, you'll see the node modules, right? And then you see the polyfills over on the right. And this will show you all of the external bundles in your node modules. And, you know, you're going to see really quickly if you see something in there that's really huge and it shouldn't be. This is going to allow you to, you know, scroll over it. You can click on it. You can deep dive in, and like some of those tiny, tiny little boxes underneath RxJS, you can actually click through and really interact with this. So it's not just a static picture. You can interact with it, and it's really a great little tool. Next one is relatively new. This is perfume.js. This is a super lightweight NPM package which shows performance metrics and more in the console log. I mean, the first time I did this, it took me like 5 minutes to implement, right? It's super, super small. Just like the last one, this doesn't affect your app at all. It's just information for you. And I really like this one because if you're already having performance issues, you can get some before and after metrics and show your supervisor or your manager what you've been accomplishing, right? If you're not familiar with first contentful paint, that's really what we're looking for here. There are multiple performance metrics. First paint is basically when your screen is not white anymore. And then first contentful paint is really what we want to measure. That is when your content actually starts showing up on the page. Okay, and again, you don't have to have perfume.js to do this. It's just super helpful because it's so easy to implement. But what it's going to do is it's just going to spit out a console log. Every time you load your app, it's going to say, this is how long it took for you to get to first contentful paint. And then the lower that number is, the faster you're loading, and that's really what you're going for. Okay, one more thing is Lighthouse. I had this one on my to-do list for a while. I heard about Lighthouse, and I was meaning to install it and check it out, but I was just busy and I never had time. But here's the thing. Turns out I didn't have to install anything. It's already there. It's actually in your Chrome DevTools. You just hit the Audits tab, and there you go. You pick your mobile or your desktop, select which tests you want to run. I would obviously recommend the performance test, but they also have SEO audits you can do and other things. The great thing is that it doesn't just give you a score. It actually gives you specific recommendations for what you can do to improve the performance in your app. So that's something it's already there. It's already available to you. Like I said, go into Chrome DevTools and hit the Audits tab. And you can even run that in localhost, and it'll just give you, a score, and it will give you really great recommendations. Okay, so that was measuring performance. And like I said, that was pretty easy, super quick. Now we're gonna go into build time performance. And this might be stuff that you guys already know, but again, this is a little thing that I see people making this mistake a lot, so I'm just gonna cover it really quickly. Okay, so optimizing your build, right? Let's talk about ahead of time compilation. Like I said, this is even easier than the last one. Ahead of time compilation has been around for a while, and it's super powerful. Ahead of time compilation means that it's going to pre-render all your pages. At this point, AOT is pretty much default behavior and it's handled for you at build time. The CLI is going to pretty much do this for you. The only reason I want to mention it here is because I want you to add that --prod if you're using ngServe during development. AOT is pretty solid, but there are a few small quirky behaviors that you might see. These same quirks are probably on your end, and so they're going to show up as runtime bugs, so you want to go ahead and fix them. When I first started dealing with AOT, what I found was if I run ngServe without the flag, it compiles fine. If I run ngServe with the flag, then I would get errors, and I didn't like that, so I would just not use the flag, which turns out was not the right answer, because what I actually want to do is fix those, because they're still errors in my code. It's just I wouldn't see them without the prod flag until I click on that particular page. So it's something that you're going to find as a bug at runtime later. The prod flag just gives it to you a little bit earlier. Okay, so there's also tree shaking and lazy loading, right? And everybody loves tree shaking and lazy loading, obviously. So what do we need for tree shaking and lazy loading? And I want you guys to pay attention closely to this, because this is on the quiz. So what do we need in order to tree shake and lazy load? More modules. Okay, I know that's a horrible meme, but I couldn't resist. Okay, so again, this might seem like common sense, but believe it or not, this is the #1 mistake that I see teams making. So you start out with a small application, but your application is very, very cool. So it might blow up and become popular, and suddenly you have a lot of users and a lot of data, and oh no, you're scaling, right? Whoops, time to learn about architecture, which is actually how I learned about architecture, because I accidentally made something that took off and then it was scaling and I didn't know anything about architecture. So if you learn nothing else from me, please remember this. You can't benefit from the beauty of tree shaking and lazy loading if your whole entire application is declared in app.module. So remember, if you're not sure, you cannot lazy load a component. You can only lazy load a module. You also cannot tree shake a component. You can only tree shake a module. So if your app is broken into pages, obviously you want to load the home page first. But those other pages, like the account page, reset your password, or the deeper pages into your application that you want to lazy load, those need to be pulled out into separate modules. So remember, you want more modules. Okay, let's move on. Don't forget that, because it's going to be on the quiz. You cannot tree shake a component. You cannot lazy load a component. You can only tree shake and lazy load modules. Okay. Who's ready? Let's stop here for a second, because we're going to go into the third section. Do we have any questions so far?
Let me check. Any questions so far? They're holding the questions for the end, I think.
Okay. All right, we're going to jump right into runtime performance, and this is the fun part, y'all. Woohoo! Okay, I've done enough of these talks to know that if anything can go wrong, it's going to go wrong while I'm live streaming. So just to make sure I'm smooth and I'm not, getting stuck here, what I did was recorded GIFs of the behavior that I wanted to show you for this demo. However, this is not magic, and all of the code that I'm going to show you is real working code, and here is the public repo where you can access all of the code that I've used to create this demo. Okay, so have you ever seen an app with lag where you click on something or type something and it just takes a minute for the computer to even catch up with whatever you just wrote? So what I wanted to do for this Angular performance demo is I wanted to try to make a little customer component with a search bar at the top. And what I want is to show that when I type in you can barely see the search bar, but there's a little tiny input right up there, right? When I type on that, first I want to see that laggy performance that I'm talking about, and then I want to show you guys how to fix it, right? So that was my plan. So when I click on this and I type, okay, so there's no lag, right? Because Angular is wicked fast. So this is just a very simple ngFor, and on this one, it's not enough lag because I only have 12 items in my ngFor, and I think I used Faker just to make up random names here. Okay, so we're going to try, instead of 12, we're going to do, oh, this is the console log, right? So I want you to see I put a console log inside my search. And I want you guys to notice here that every time it filters, it's filtering with every single letter. Every single item in the collection is going through that filter with every single letter. So that's something that I want. We're going to come back to this a little bit later, right? But that's something that we want to avoid, because every time I type a letter in here, it's going to go and filter all of them, which is part of the problem. This is one of those super common mistakes that a lot of people do this like this because they don't know how. So we're going to talk about what we should do instead. Okay, but even with this, let's see if I can play this one more time. It's only 16 seconds. Even with the console log, I'm not seeing any lag. And the whole point of this was to show you guys lag and then fix it. So let's try 1,000 entries. And I'm just scrolling down here to show you guys. We have 1,000, and then we're going to scroll back up to the top. And then we're going to hit our search bar and see lag. No, still no lag. Okay, we're going to get some lag, you guys. Okay, 9,999 items in the ngFor. Now, I've already searched, I've already put in the type, and we have lots of lag now. Okay, let's see that one more time. I'm going to play it again, and I'm going to tell you when I've typed it, and then you'll see me move away from the text box, and then we wait for a while. Whoa, hey, hey, hey. I just clicked on the wrong, come on. Sorry about that. I clicked on the wrong. Okay. There we go. And I typed it, and now we wait. Okay, so that's a lot of lag, and that's what we're going for, right? So now we have 9,999 items in the ngFor, and we definitely have some lag. So now that we have some lag, let's see if we can fix it. So we're going to optimize runtime, and the recommendations that I'm talking about today are examples, but remember, these concepts can be found all over your application. So if you bring in an expert after your app is finished and ask them to make it faster, you might have a lot of refactoring because it's not always a quick configuration issue. Runtime performance exists all through your code. If you understand these concepts, you're naturally going to write faster code, and that's a beautiful thing. So we're going to read this. I'm going to give you guys a quick bullet list of what we're going to do. There's like 5 steps, I think, that we're going to do. And then we're going to talk about each one at a time, and we'll look at some examples. And one easy way to remember this whole thing, think of the Angular change detection machine like a sports car, not a pickup truck. It's meant to be fast and powerful, but it's not meant to hold everything. So we really want to be careful and not use that Angular change detection more than we need it, because we're just going to overload it. Okay, so one thing that we're going to do is we're going to separate our inputs from our lists, and I'm going to talk about why we're going to do that. Next, we're going to debounce the user input, which is super easy. Then we're going to filter list items in the parent for a couple of reasons, and we'll talk about what those reasons are. We're going to implement on-push change detection, which is, again, super easy, but there's a trick to it, and I'm going to teach you guys that trick. And then the last thing is we're only going to paint visible content, and that's a big one. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to separate the input from the lists. And we're going to talk about this a minute in the on-push change detection. But basically, like we said in that, you saw, I think it was the first or second little video, that it was scrolling through every single one of the items in the collection with every keystroke. And so one of the things that we can do is to get that change detection working as efficiently as possible is we actually want to pull that input out into a separate component. That doesn't mean it needs to be more complicated, okay? Because all we're going to do, you see that first line, input type equals text? All we're going to do is pull that line out to a separate component. We're not going to add a bunch of extra code or fancy stuff, but when we have that on push, we want the on push to be separated, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do is anytime you have a search box next to a large collection and you're going to filter that collection by the search box, That's just a little trick. Put it in a separate component because we're going to hook up the on push. But the on push really isn't going to work effectively if the input is in the same component, because every single keystroke is going to search. It's basically going to dirty check everything that you're doing, which is not what you want. So step number 1, separate your search boxes from your lists. Next, we're going to debounce the user input. I think, did I skip one? No. Okay, so you see that import on the second line, debounce time. This is an RxJS thing. They also have a debounce operator in RxJS, but the debounce requires a callback function. So if you use debounce, you have to pass in a function. If you use debounce time, the only thing that you have to pass in is milliseconds. So I like debounce time because it's super, super easy. And also 200 milliseconds is usually my recommendation, somewhere between 200 and 300, because what happens is you're basically, the debounce time is telling it to wait until the user has stopped typing for 200 milliseconds, which is barely noticeable. It just means you're not going to ping your server for search results over and over and over again. And 200 seems to be about right to be as efficient as possible and barely noticeable to the end user. But you can play with that and adjust it a little bit as you see fit. Okay, so remember, debounce time is just like debounce, but easier. And who doesn't love easier? All right, next, we're going to filter list items in the parent once. Okay, so I want you to see, and this was the filter pipe that I showed you guys where it was doing a console log with every single letter, right? And the problem with that is, and this is actually how I used to do it when I first learned Angular. And it was great when I was in development and I only had like 20 rows of sample data. But as soon as I moved my app to production, then I had 5,000 rows of data. Then every time I would type in the search bar, I would get lag. And this was one of the problems because what it's doing is it's trying to do all of those calculations in the DOM, like at runtime. And that's, and really it's like trying to render all that stuff. It's just, there's too much going on in the front, right? So what we want to do instead, you see at the top where it says let user of users, and then we have the filter : search on that first top line. Here's what we want to do instead. Filter users, right? So if we have a thing called filtered users, and that's actually what we're going to pass to the DOM, all we're doing is we're handling the same exact logic that we had before, but we're putting in the TypeScript rather than the HTML. So we just kind of want to handle that behind the curtain, right? We don't want it to have to do all of those calculations in the HTML. We want to just get all that cleaned up. And then when we go into the HTML, we're going to send filtered users to the DOM. Does that make sense? You guys stop me if you have questions.
We're with you. We're with you.
Okay. So remember, filtered users is just a pattern that you can use over any collection. You just want to filter it in your TypeScript file and then send it filtered to the DOM. You just really want to avoid this where you've got the filter in the DOM. And sometimes you do need to do that. And sometimes you really, the only time this matters, you guys, is when you have a large collection. Because if you have a collection that only has like 5 or 10 things on it, this is not going to hurt you at all. And remember, we had to have 9,999 items in order to get lag. So this is not going to be an issue unless you have a large collection. Okay, so let's move on. Change detection strategy on push. So now that you have your large list separated from your input and filtered in the parent, all you have to do is pass it in as an input to your display component. So now we have a display component for the input and we have a display component for the output, right? And those are separate components. So what we do is the parent component, that actual page is going to go get all your information, get your collection. It's going to do the filtering because that is going to handle the interaction. The parent will handle the interaction between the search box and your list, right? Because this is going to be in your parent component. So you've got that, this filtered users, you're getting the search text, right? And you're doing that filter in the parent. And that way, when you come over here, your actual user list is going to be super, super simple. You've got an input for your users, which is filtered in the parent. So you don't even have to worry about that search box existing. You're not even paying attention to that. The only thing that you need for this is the track by function. You actually don't have to have the track by function, but the track by function is really nice because it helps ngFor for indexing large collections. So that track by function there is going to make it run a little bit faster. Let me see if, I don't know if I have an example of the track by function in you. Yeah, there it is. You see where it says track by function there in the same line as the ngFor? And again, remember, this is all in the GitHub repo and it's on YouTube. So you don't have to remember any of this. I just want you to follow the logic. Okay, so once you've got that track by function, this is what the track by function looks like. You are more than welcome to just copy and paste that out of mine because it's probably going to be about the same exact thing. Super simple. Okay, so now that you've got the list separated, you want to implement change detection strategy. And that I think is pretty straightforward. Notice that you're going to import change detection strategy from Angular core, and then you're going to put it in your component definition with change detection strategy.onPush. And this is almost, I would think, recommended, especially if you have a large list. Okay, and also if you want to learn more about change detection, you can check out Angular in depth because they have some really great articles on this. They have deep dives. If you want to totally nerd out over this kind of stuff, that's the place to do it. Okay, so let's see what's going to happen now with our performance. It's still really not as fast as we'd like. But we did all of the optimization. So I was thinking it was going to be really, really great. And I'm not really happy with this. So you know what I did? I called my friend Mike Brocky, who was on the, he was one of the guys who built the Angular CLI. He's very, very, very smart. And I said, Mike, I have this performance talk and I'm supposed to be showing them all about performance and it's still taking forever. So how do I make it super, super, super fast? And Mike looked at the performance and he said, the reason why it's still taking a long time is because it still has to paint 9,999 list items on the page, even if we can't see them. And I was like, oh yeah, let's implement that new virtual scrolling thing I heard about, because he's right. We still have to render 9,999 items, and that's why it's still taking so long. So on this GIF right here, the reason why I'm not getting the performance that I wanted is because it's still all the way down the page. You can only see, 25 of them, but it's still rendering all those, and that's why it's taking forever. So, what we want to do is use the virtual scroll. This is brand new. I love this. It is so easy to implement. I love it. You have to wrap it. Let's just look at this for a minute. We have the ngIf up at the top, right? And I just want to make sure that the ngIf is there. And if it is, we're going to go ahead and put in the CDK virtual scroll viewport. So all I did here was I took the code that I already had a couple of slides back, and I wrapped it in the CDK virtual scroll viewport. And then I changed my ngFor. I had the asterisk, the star ngFor, and I changed it on the third line from ngFor to CDK virtual for. Other than that, this is the same code because the div, the let user of users, the track by was already there, the avatars, everything was already there. So this was a very small change that I made. Don't be intimidated because the virtual scroll is brand new, because it's pretty clean and it's not very hard to implement. But if you want to use this, remember one thing. I'm going to save you 20 minutes. You see the item size at the end of the second line? It has to be there. You have to have item size. And if you don't have item size, nothing will show up on your screen. Don't ask me how I know that. But it took me like 15 minutes to figure it out. And so now you guys will be faster than me. So remember, the item size is required. Other than that, this is super easy to implement. And let's see what we've got here. Okay, so first, let me see the virtual scroll. I'm just going to scroll way down, and the virtual scroll is now implemented. So it's actually painting them as I'm going, and I'm scrolling down really fast. So you can see a little bit of a delay, but I think the performance is pretty good. For as fast as it's scrolling, it's keeping up, I think, reasonably well. Okay, now let's try the search again. I gotta click here. Okay, and we're gonna see, so we still have 9,999 items here, right? Here's the typing. Woo! There you go. Now that's fast. Now that's searching through 9,999 items with no lag. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm excited about that. So let me go back here and turn off my screen share. Okay, so that was my talk. Do you guys have any questions? Because we are gonna have a quiz. But before the quiz, we're gonna stop and ask if you guys have any questions. And I have to take a drink. Is it just a Texas thing? Somebody made fun of me because I was drinking tea out of a mason jar. I was like, doesn't everybody drink tea out of a mason jar? Apparently only in Texas.
So are there any questions?
About the last thing with the item size, how do you get the item size right?
How do you get, the question was, how do you get the item size right in the virtual scroll?
You can have any item size you want. It just has to be there. I started, I think 25 is the default. 25 is just what they had in the example that I was looking at. But it depends if you, like if you're scrolling on a row, or mine was, yeah, you can play with it and adjust it until your view looks the way you want it to. As long as you have it. That's the problem, is that I didn't really get an error message, I don't think. So it just didn't work. There was just nothing there, right? And that's why it took me a while to figure out what was wrong, because it just didn't tell me. It just said nothing. So as long as the item size parameter is there, you should be fine. It doesn't even, whatever you want to put in there, you can put in there.
Not even ngServe /prod doesn't give you anything about the lack of it.
Did you get the question?
No, I didn't hear it. It doesn't give me anything.
The question was, yeah, for next time we'll definitely set up a microphone. But the question was, you don't get an error even if you do like ngServe prod? I think it's a runtime error, right? I mean, it
didn't give me an error. It just rendered nothing and laughed at me. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I don't think it gave me, no, because if I had an error, I would have figured it out quicker. But again, this is brand new, right? It's kind of bleeding edge. So we have to be a little bit patient with them, because the CDK people are giving us all these, like the virtual scroll. I've done something like that before without the CDK, and it was a lot more code. So I'm pretty patient usually with them if it's not absolutely perfect, or if it's not completely documented right, because it is brand new. It is very cool, and I've used it a few times, and it is pretty easy to implement, especially if you've ever written any virtual scroll functionality without the CDK. It's very complicated, so it's really nice that we can use that so easily. And it is a little intimidating because I didn't know how to do it, but for not knowing how to do it, it was pretty easy to set up once I tried. So yeah, and again, there's a working example in my Angular performance repo, so you can go and look there. Any more questions? Are y'all ready for a quiz?
So just like, you just described, your process, or if you can go in a bit more detail, what your process is when you come up, with a problem and have no idea how to solve it, besides talking to the, Angular core team.
Oh my goodness, that's like every day for me. I love it. For me, ever since I was younger, if I do the same thing over and over and over and over again, I get bored, right? I don't want that job. So I really like to play with like bleeding edge stuff. You have to be patient when you're dealing with brand new functionality, because sometimes the documentation is not really that thorough. There aren't a lot of examples out there. But the thing is, the people, especially in the Angular community, the people who are doing that, those are the people who become GDE, well, Google developer experts, right? Are not just Angular. There are there's Android and, lots of different categories of Google developer experts, but Google developer experts are made up of the people who go out and learn that brand new stuff and then teach it to everybody else. And it's a really great network. So if you have the patience and the curiosity and you like playing with stuff like that, it's really great to be the first one to try out that stuff. And speaking of which, that reminds me, you guys, I am working on a talk for Basil. Who's interested in Basil?
A couple of hands.
Okay. Because I'm doing a talk. So if you guys want, I can come back and practice my talk on you. Because Basil is another thing that's like super brand new, bleeding edge. And there are documentation. There's docs out there, but it's a lot of documentation. No pictures. So I'm going to try and break it down and maybe come back and give you guys a live demo of a Basil build. Okay, so for today, I think we should play a game. And you guys should all, if you want to play, get out your phones because you need to connect to Kahoot. I'm going to share my screen again. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Whoa. Do you guys have good service here?
No.
Oh, okay. I know you told me, Bonnie, to check this beforehand, but I completely forgot. I think we have Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah. And the password is adore.me.
So let me just.
I'll just turn off my screen share and I'll sit here and wait for a minute.
Yep.
Because it's more fun. I don't want anybody to want to play and not be able to play. So we'll just wait and you guys can connect to the Wi-Fi.
So how is it? Adore. Oh? Right?
Not capital.
Photo.
The guest one or the simple one?
Yes.
It's the guest one.
Yes.
Now all the internet knows your Wi-Fi password. Okay, but we're setting this up right now.
All right, take your time.
Ai reușit toată lumea?
Mai fi conectați și ca să vă dea. E un platformă de jocuri. Ai reușit toată lumea. Quiz-ul este pe platforma aia. Da, o să dăm. You'll have a link for us, right?
Yeah, as soon as you guys, I'll go ahead and share this. So it is that big enough? Okay, so we're going to start. And now you guys go to kahoot.it and enter the game pin 126245.
Okay.
And we get music too. The music is my favorite part.
Okay, so I'll let you know when everybody's connected. It's kahoot.it.
Luliana! I see you, Luliana. I see Edward. I see Alan, Alex. All right, here we go. Honey Badger. Who's Honey Badger? Oh, somebody got an icon in there. That's pretty cool. Victor, Christy, Sebi. Is that Sebi? Is that Sebastian?
Yes, I am Sebastian.
Hello. I have there's another Sebastian in the Angular community that is very huggy. Everybody hugs. I have to hug him every time I see him. He hugs all of us. Jam. All right, we're starting to slow down. Is there anybody still coming in? We got Andre. 29 players. Okay, I'm gonna count down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, let's play. Oh, wait. Before I start this, somebody told me that there's one. So there's one in here about the prod flag, right? And someone said you could also use the AOT flag, and I didn't know that. So when we get to that one, I'm going to tell you all the answer because the answer's wrong, apparently. Okay, are you ready? Remember, speed counts. So the first one to answer gets the most points. Which flag is used to activate ahead-of-time compilation with ngServe? This is the one. It's prod, you guys. Apparently, prod and AOT are both correct, and that's my fault because I shouldn't have done that. But we got 10 right answers, and the 6 of you, I apologize because that was my fault. Okay, Ileana. Who's Ileana? Can I get a whoop whoop? All right. So far, she's the one to beat, y'all. Can you tree shake a component? All right. The two of you who got that wrong, Andrew's going to throw a beanbag at your head. That was super easy. Okay, now remember this because we're going to do it again. All right, Ileana's still in the lead. Alan's coming for you, Ileana. Here we go. Can you lazy load a component? This is like the easiest quiz ever. It might get harder, so don't let your guard down. The two of you who got it wrong last time should get it right this time. All right, oh man, y'all, come on. Okay, no, you cannot lazy load a component. You can only lazy load a module. That's why we want to break them up into modules, because if we want to do lazy loading and tree shaking, we need to have separate modules. That's kind of an important thing, and it's simple, but it's a very common mistake that a lot of people make. So break them up into modules if you want to tree shake or lazy load. And Ileana, man, Ileana's dominating this game. All right, let's go. What's the name of the RxJS operator that I showed you today? Delay, delay time, debounce, or debounce time? All right, good job. Debounce time is the correct answer. Oh man, Alan just knocked Ileana out of the lead. Where's Alan? Can I get a whoop whoop? Whoop whoop. All right, good job, Alan. Sorry, Ileana, there's still time. What's my Twitter handle, y'all? I know, it was on the bottom of every slide. It was like a trick question. But it was on every slide, so I don't feel bad. All right. Hey. You guys are good. Alex. Man, this is like a close, you never know what's going to happen in this game. Where's Alex? Can I get a whoop whoop, Alex? Alex. Whoop. All right, one whoop's going to have to do. What is the import required for on-push change detection? On-push, ng on-push, change detection strategy, or change detection? Good job. You guys are awesome. Smart cookies. All right. It's still Alex. Alex is streaking with 6 in a row. Good job, Alex. 7 of 9. Where is the best place to implement on-push change detection? This one's kind of hard, you guys. Where do we want to put the on-push change detection? Yeah, this one's hard. We want to put that in the list, in a presentation component displaying a large collection. You can put it in other places, but this is really where it shines because you want that on-push change detection to be on the same component as your list. Alex, still in the lead. All right, I think we have 2 more questions. What is the name of the new CDK tool we use to paint only the visible part of the page? Is it Angular Material, drag and drop, virtual scrolling, or infinite scrolling? That was good. I always get confused between virtual scrolling and infinite scrolling, so I thought there would be more wrong answers on that. Okay, let's see who's in the lead. It's still Alex. Way to go, Alex. They're all gunning for you at this point. I hope you know that. Okay, I think we have one more question. What's the name? Oh, this one's not fair. This was from Breebug. The answer for this is Jesse Sanders, you guys. Get that circle. All right, good job. I meant to update this, and it should have said adore me on the right answer, and I'm sorry I didn't get to a chance. I forgot about that. Okay, so let's see who wins. Alex! Woohoo!
Hey.
All right, Alex, let us see you. Can we see Alex?
Cool, thanks.
Hey. There's
awesome stuff. Nice platform.
Alex, How does it feel to be the smartest person in the room?
I don't know about that. Maybe the fastest fingers, but pretty good.
And he's humble too. I love him. All right, you guys, give Alex a round of applause. And that's my talk. Thank you so much for having me. You guys are super fun, and I hope I can come back sometime and talk about something else.
For sure. So Basil's a deal, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't have my talk ready yet, but I am going to have it pretty soon. So if you want, I can reach out to you, and we'll pick a day on the calendar. And also, we can trade, because you guys can also come and do talks for ngHuston. Same setup, because we live stream ngHuston all the time. So, and we used to do it at 6 p.m., which is like 1 a.m. for you guys, but we just changed ngHuston to go earlier in the day so that our European friends can hang out with us more, because we had a lot of Europeans that would come on the show, but they had to live stream at like 1 a.m. and it was not very good. So now we live stream earlier. I think tomorrow's episode is in the evening, but from then on, we're going to be live streaming earlier so that you guys can participate if you want to. And I would always love to see any of you on ngHuston, or I would love to come back and hang out with you guys again.
Sure, you're a good friend of ours, so you're always welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Okay, that's it. I'll see y'all soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.